Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is how to understand different speaking styles.
It's fantastic to be here. And, digging into the research for this one was a real eye-opener for me.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, it's one of those topics that sounds so simple on the surface, right? How people talk. But when you really start to peel back the layers, you realize it's about everything. It's psychology, it's sociology.
It's how we build relationships.
It's exactly how we build or break relationships with every single person around us.
I think we've all been there. That awful feeling where you think your English is pretty good, you know all the words in the sentence, but you're still completely lost. You have no idea what the person actually means.
Right. And there's this concept I came across that I think just nails it. It's called pragmatic failure.
Pragmatic failure. That sounds serious, like a rocket exploding.
It sounds incredibly dramatic, doesn't it? But honestly, in a social situation, it can feel just as catastrophic.
Okay, break that down for me. What is it?
Well, see, most learners, they worry about grammar failure. Using the wrong verb tense, messing up a preposition.
Yeah, the stuff you get marked down for on a test.
Exactly. But pragmatic failure is a whole different beast. It's when your grammar is perfect, your vocabulary is top-notch, but you still somehow manage to offend or confuse or just creep out everyone in the room because you use the wrong style.
Right. So it's the difference between being technically incorrect and just being weird. Or rude.
That's the crux of it. You can be 100% grammatically correct and at the same time socially disastrous.
And that's where the misunderstanding comes in. You hear every word, but you completely miss the intention.
You do. You might think someone is furious with you just because their speaking style is very direct.
Or the opposite. You think someone is your new best friend because they're being really friendly, but actually they're being deeply sarcastic.
Oh, that's the worst, isn't it? Standing there nodding along thinking you're making this great connection.
Yeah. And then later you find out they were making fun of you the whole time.
It happens.
Yeah.
And I think movies are a huge culprit here. They confuse learners so much.
What do you mean?
Well, you'll watch a courtroom drama, and the English sounds one way, very rigid, very structured, very formal.
Okay.
Then you flip over to a teen comedy or a reality TV show, and it's a completely different language.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's all English.
It's just different styles.
Different styles. So our mission today, really, is to decode all of this. We're going to unpack what speaking style actually is, why it matters so much, and most importantly, how you can learn to switch between these styles yourself.
I love that. We're basically giving everyone the keys to understanding the subtext, because that's what it is. If you miss the style, you miss the real meaning.
You miss everything.
So let's start with the basics, the core concept. When we say speaking style, we're not just talking about accents or regional dialects, are we?
No, not at all. That's a common confusion, but it's different. Think of it this way. Speaking style is about how we choose to express our thoughts. The delivery, yes, based on where we are, who we're with, and what we want to achieve. It covers everything from our word choice to our tone of voice, our speed, volume, even our body language.
Okay, that's a lot to juggle.
It is. So the best analogy, and the research comes back to this one again and again because it's so perfect, is the clothing analogy.
The clothing analogy. Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay on me.
All right, so imagine all the language you know, all your vocabulary, all your grammar is your closet. It's your entire wardrobe.
Got it. My linguistic wardrobe.
There you go. Now, everyone wears clothes, obviously, but you don't wear the same outfit to every single event, do you?
No, definitely not. You wouldn't wear, say, a tuxedo to a casual beach barbecue.
You could, but
It would be a very, very bold statement, and you probably wouldn't get invited back.
You wouldn't. And that's the point. What are you actually signaling if you wear a tuxedo to the beach? What message are you sending to the other people there?
That I'm way overdressed, that maybe I'm a bit pretentious, or just that I'm really rigid and uncomfortable.
Spot on. You are signaling hierarchy. You are creating distance. You're saying, I am not one of you right now. I am separate. I am different.
I see where you're going with this.
Language works the exact same way. We dress up our language for formal occasions to show respect or authority.
And we dress down our language with friends to show we're relaxed and comfortable.
We show intimacy, vulnerability.
Right.
So using the wrong words or the wrong tone is literally like wearing the wrong outfit to the party.
That is such a crucial way to think about it, because I think so many learners fall into this trap of thinking that formal equals polite.
It's the biggest trap there is.
So they try to be formal all the time just to be safe. But you're saying that can backfire.
Oh, it can backfire spectacularly. In the wrong context, being overly formal can actually feel aggressive.
Aggressive, wow.
Yes. It can feel like a rejection of friendship. Think about it. If you wear a full business suit to a casual movie night at a friend's house, it's not just nice. It creates a barrier. It says, I don't value the relaxed nature of this interaction. I am keeping my professional guard up.
And using super formal English with friends does the same thing, saying something like, it is imperative that we consume our beverages now.
Right. You're not just being weird. You're signaling, I do not want to be intimate with you. I am maintaining my status. So style isn't just about vocabulary. It's about defining the relationship between two people in real time.
That makes so much sense. And just like with an outfit, there are all these different components that make up the final look. It's not just the shirt, it's the shoes, the accessories, how you wear your hair. In language, that's your word choice. Simple versus complex, your tone happy, sarcastic, serious. Even
the pauses. The silence is just as important as the noise. It's whether you speak in these full, grammatically perfect paragraphs or if you're using, grunts and half sentences and trailing off.
All of these little ingredients mixed together to create a style.
They create the outfit.
So why does this matter so much? I mean, beyond just wanting to sound more natural.
But this goes way beyond passing your exams. This is about social survival. It prevents that deep, cringy awkwardness we talked about. If you can read the style, you can understand the real meaning, the subtext. And this is the most important part, it allows you to respond appropriately.
To match the outfit.
You want to match the outfit of the conversation. If everyone else is speaking in metaphorical jeans and t-shirts and you show up in a three-piece suit of formal academic English, you create that distance. You alienate people.
You don't want to be the person who sounds like a walking textbook when everyone else is just hanging out.
Nobody wants to be that person.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics then. The research you looked at breaks this down into a spectrum, right? It's not just a simple on-off switch of formal versus informal. It's more nuanced than that.
That's right. It's a scale. Most linguists and sociologists break this down into 5 key styles. So you can picture a line. On one end, you've got the most rigid, the most unchangeable language, and on the other, the most relaxed and intimate.
Okay, let's start at that rigid end. Style number 1 is called frozen speaking. That sounds cold, like we're in the Arctic.
It is cold, in a way. It's cold in the sense that it is frozen in time. It's solid, like a block of ice.
Okay.
This is language that never, ever changes. It's recited from memory. The speaker adds absolutely no personal opinion, no ad-libs, no variation whatsoever.
So we're talking about things like rituals, oaths.
Exactly that. Think of religious prayers like the Our Father, or legal oaths in a courtroom. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Right. Or the Pledge of Allegiance. You don't improvise the Pledge of Allegiance.
You do not.
You don't say, I pledge allegiance to the flag, and hey, by the way, I really like the stripes on this one.
No, you definitely don't do that. If you change a single word, you break the ritual. The whole point, the safety of this style, comes from its predictability. Everyone knows exactly what's going to be said. It bonds a group together through that shared history.
So for a learner listening to this, what's the takeaway? I mean, do they need to practice speaking this way?
Generally, no. You don't need to produce this style in your day-to-day social life. You're not going to walk into a coffee shop and order using frozen style.
That would be strange.
It would be very strange. But you absolutely need to recognize it. When you're watching a movie with a courtroom scene or a wedding or a funeral, you are going to hear this style. And it's a signal to you, the listener. It says, we are now in a ceremony. This is tradition. Pay attention.
Got it. So that's the ice block. Let's thaw it out just a little bit. What's style number 2?
Style number 2 is formal speaking. This is the dressed up version of our language.
This is the suit and tie.
This is the suit and tie. This is what you hear in a big business presentation, a job interview, a university lecture, or on a national news broadcast.
Okay, so what are the markers here? How do I know I'm hearing a formal style and not just, someone who speaks very clearly?
The biggest marker is completeness. You'll hear full, complete sentences, perfectly structured. There's no slang. And this is a really interesting one. There are no contractions.
No contractions.
In a truly formal speech, you likely wouldn't say don't. You'd say do not. You wouldn't say can't. You'd say cannot.
I cannot accept this proposal at this time.
Yeah, that definitely adds a layer of weight to it.
It creates authority, it sounds controlled, and it creates that professional distance between the speaker and the listener that we talked about. It says, I'm in a role here. I am a professional. I am not your buddy right now.
And the danger here, I'm guessing, is using this style when you really, really shouldn't.
That is the #1 trap for so many learners. A lot of textbooks are written in a style that leans towards formal because it's just easier to teach clean grammar rules that way.
All right. So a learner studies that, they internalize it, and then they go out for a beer with a new friend and say something like, "Good evening. I am experiencing a very pleasant time."
It sounds like a robot or like an alien from a 1950s sci-fi movie trying to blend in. "Greetings, fellow humans."
It creates a wall. It just makes you sound cold and distant, even if your intention is to be polite. You're accidentally signaling that you want to keep the interaction totally impersonal.
Okay, so if frozen is for rituals and formal is too stiff for most of daily life, what's the alternative? This brings us to style #3, which is consultative speaking. You called this the sweet spot in the notes.
I did. This is the Goldilocks zone. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's professional, but it's friendly. It's structured, but it's not stiff. This is the style we use in, I'd say, probably 90% of our public interactions.
Give me some examples. Where are we using consultative style?
You're talking to a colleague about a project. You're asking a waiter for a recommendation at a restaurant. You're at a doctor's appointment. You're talking to your child's teacher.
So most everyday transactions.
Most everyday transactions where there's a slight power dynamic or a professional context, yes.
And what does it sound like? How is it different from formal?
Okay, let's use a really concrete example. Let's say you need to borrow a pen from me.
Okay, I need a pen.
If you were using frozen style, which would be absurd, you might say, let it be known that a writing implement is required.
Right, like a royal decree from the king.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, if you use formal style, you'd say, "Could you please provide me with a pen?" It's a full sentence, no contraction, very polite, but also quite stiff. It's almost a command that's just disguised as a question.
I see that.
Now, here's consultative. Do you have a pen I could borrow?
Ah, I hear the shift immediately. Do you have... It's an actual question. It invites a response. It's a dialogue.
Precisely. The formal version is a monologue. Consultative is a two-way street. It actively seeks feedback. It uses phrases like, "Does that work for you?" or active listening signals like, "I see," or "Got it." It acknowledges the other person's input.
So if I'm a learner and I'm in a new situation and I'm panicking because I don't know who I'm talking to or what their status is...
Go consultative. It is the safest bet you can make. It's almost never considered rude, and it's almost never considered too stuffy or weird. It's the standard default outfit. It's like business casual. You can wear it almost anywhere and fit in.
That is such a useful piece of advice. When in doubt, go consultative. Okay, now let's take the tie off completely. We're getting more relaxed. Style #4, informal or casual speaking.
This is the water cooler zone, or the pub after work. This is for friends, family, close colleagues, social media. This is where the rules of grammar really start to bend and sometimes completely break.
This is where we see the contractions just go wild, right? Gotta, wanna, gotta.
Oh, yeah. And slang everywhere. What's up? That's sick. And filler words. So many filler words like,
And the emotional range just opens up.
It does. In formal speaking, you try to control your emotion. In casual speaking, you let it flow. You can sound excited or bored or angry or hilarious.
Yes. But the problem is, as we said, textbooks hate this stuff. They teach you that this is all just a series of errors.
They treat it like bad English.
Yeah.
But it is not bad English. It is real English.
Yeah.
This is how people actually communicate with each other when they're comfortable.
Right.
If you walk into a room of your friends and you start speaking in perfect, complete sentences with no filler words, you're the one who sounds unnatural. Learners need this mindset shift. Dropping the G in going, saying going, isn't an error in this context. It's a style choice. It's a signal.
What's it signaling?
It's signaling belonging. It says, I am so comfortable with you that I can afford to be lazy with my mouth.
That is a huge reframing. It's not lazy, it's a social signal. Okay, one more. The final one on the spectrum. Style #5, intimate speaking.
This is reserved for the absolute inner circle. Your partner, your best friend of 20 years, maybe a sibling. Okay. The people who, know your soul.
And what characterizes this style? What does it sound like?
It sounds like efficiency. Extreme, radical efficiency. There's almost no grammar. You have private code words, pet names, babe, honey, that sort of thing, whispers.
It's what you called the telepathy factor.
That's a great way to put it. Because you have so much shared history, so much shared context, you just don't need full sentences anymore. If I walk into the kitchen in the morning and I look at my spouse and just say, coffee, That one word has replaced an entire paragraph of consultative English. Replaces, "Good morning, my dear. I see that you are in the process of making coffee. Would you be so kind as to prepare me a cup as well when you have a moment?"
Or you might not even need a word. It could just be a specific kind of grunt. A grunt that means I'm hungry or I had a really bad day at work.
Yes, and that's the key. If an outsider heard that grunt or that one-word question, they would have no idea what it meant. That's why it's intimate. It is designed to exclude the rest of the world. It draws a tiny private circle around just the two of you.
So we have this whole spectrum, this wardrobe. But even within those styles, people are just different. We all have our own personalities. And this is where learners get really, really confused because they might misinterpret a personality trait as like a language barrier.
This is a huge source of confusion.
Let's start with a big one, the direct speaker.
Yes. This is a tough one, especially if the learner comes from a culture that really values high context, indirect communication. The direct speaker. Well, they say exactly what they mean. There's no fluff, no sugarcoating.
Just no, I don't like that idea, or that is wrong.
Exactly, that won't work.
I feel like this is a style that's pretty common in places like the US or Germany or Australia.
Very common in those places. And to a learner who's not used to it, it can feel incredibly rude. It can feel like a personal attack, like aggression.
But that's not usually the intent.
Not at all. The intent is usually efficiency and honesty. They aren't trying to hurt your feelings. They're trying to solve the problem as quickly as possible. They see clarity as a form of kindness.
So the advice here for a learner is grow a thick skin.
A thick skin. And you need to reframe it in your mind. Don't take it personally. They are not attacking you. They are attacking the issue. For them, the thought process is, I am respecting you enough to give you the unvarnished truth.
Okay. So on the complete flip side of that, we have the indirect speaker. And this is like a code-breaking challenge.
This is very, very true. The indirect speaker only hints at their meaning. They use all these softeners. They will almost never say the word no.
Wow, I know this style so well. This is when someone says, maybe we could consider some other options.
Which, when you decode it, means your idea is absolutely terrible and we are not doing it.
Right. Or, I'm not entirely sure that's right.
Translation, that is 100% wrong.
Yeah.
Or the classic, the all-time great. That's a brave decision.
Ooh, that's a killer. That one stings. That means you are a fool and you are about to make a huge mistake.
It does. And you have to understand why they do this. It's not to be dishonest. It's to be diplomatic. In linguistics, we talk about face theory, the idea of saving face. They're trying to protect your dignity, your face, and their own.
So if a learner takes them literally,
it's a disaster. They might think, oh, they think my decision is brave. What a lovely compliment. No, it's a giant flashing red warning light.
You have to listen for those little words, don't you? Maybe, perhaps, possibly a bit. Those are the clues.
Those are the red flags.
Okay, what about personality number 3? The expressive speaker. The drama queens and kings of the world.
These are the people with high energy, a lot of exaggeration, big dramatic shifts in their vocal pitch. These are the people who say things like, I literally died.
When they're very clearly standing right in front of you, very much alive.
Right. They're using hyperbole as a tool.
I've told you a million times. A literal-minded learner might get very confused. A million, really? I don't think that's statistically possible.
So what's the advice for listening to an expressive speaker? Focus on the emotion, not the literal facts. They are painting a picture with feelings. The truth for them isn't in the data. The truth is in the vibe, in the emotional impact.
And then, of course, you have the complete opposite, the analytical speaker.
Yes, they are obsessed with facts, data, precision, and logic. They are the ones who say first, second, third. They structure their arguments very clearly.
And if you're talking to an analytical speaker?
Do not be vague. Don't say maybe or sort of. Give them numbers. Give them dates. Give them concrete details. They find comfort and respect in accuracy.
And just to round this out, we have the storyteller versus the reserved speaker.
A great contrast. The storyteller will wrap everything, even a simple fact, in a narrative. You're not going to believe this. Picture this.
They make everything an anecdote.
Everything. Whereas the reserved speaker, they value silence. And this is so important for learners to understand. Silence is not always a bad thing. In some cultures, silence in a conversation is deeply awkward and must be filled. In others, it's a sign of respect and thoughtfulness. If you're talking to a reserved speaker, don't panic and start filling the silence with nervous chatter. Just let them think. They listen far more than they talk.
That's probably such a relief for many learners to hear. Silence doesn't always mean failure. Sometimes it's just a different style.
It absolutely is.
Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. We've touched on this with the direct and indirect styles, but geography plays a massive role in this. So let's do a quick tour of some global English variations, starting with American English.
Right. So in broad strokes, the general style of American English is direct, it's friendly, and it's very optimistic. It's what some sociolinguists call positive politeness. The goal is to pull you in, make you feel good, and affirm the relationship.
This is the land of the compliment sandwich, isn't it?
It is the birthplace of the compliment sandwich, yes. If an American boss wants to give you some criticism, they will almost always say something nice first, then deliver the criticism, then end with something nice again.
I love your enthusiasm on this project. This entire report is completely wrong and needs to be rewritten, but hey, great font choice.
That is a perfect example. It's designed to soften the blow.
And what about the greeting? The classic, how are you?
The ultimate trap for so many visitors and learners. In American English, how are you is a greeting. It is not a question.
It's just a different way of saying hello.
That's all it is. The only expected answer is good or great, you. If you actually stop and start listing your recent medical problems or financial worries, the American will be very, very confused. They're not asking for data. They are just performing a social ritual.
Good to know. Okay, let's hop across the pond to British English.
It feels like a different world, linguistically. The general style is much more indirect, it's understated, and it's often self-deprecating. The sources often mention negative politeness here.
Which sounds bad, but it isn't.
It doesn't mean being mean, not at all.
Yeah.
It means not imposing on others. It's about giving other people their space, not forcing friendship.
And this is the home of the art of understatement. This is where not bad actually means that's really quite good.
Yes. If a British person describes your work as not bad, you should be absolutely thrilled. That is high praise.
And if they say, it's a bit warm in here,
They might mean the building is on fire and you should evacuate immediately.
or if they say, I'm not entirely convinced by that argument,
That means I completely and utterly disagree with everything you have just said, and I think you are fundamentally wrong.
and then there's the irony, the sarcasm.
It is the default setting for a lot of British humor, a lot of very dry wit. You have to watch the eyes and listen to the tone. If the mouth says, oh, how lovely, but the tone is flat and the eyes are dead, it is sarcasm.
Noted. Let's head down under Australian English.
The key words here are egalitarian, informal, and slang heavy.
They have that cultural idea called tall poppy syndrome, right?
They do, and it deeply influences the speaking style. It's a cultural value that basically says, do not brag. Do not get too big for your boots. Do not act superior to others. If you act like a tall poppy growing higher than all the others in the field, you'll get cut down to size.
So they value equality.
Deeply. And the language reflects that. The word mate is used for almost everyone, from the prime minister to the person who collects your garbage. And the national motto could be no worries, which implies, hey, we're all good here, no stress, we're on the same level.
Okay, and one more stop. Our neighbors to the north, Canada.
Canada is a really interesting blend. It has some of the directness of American English, but it's fused with the courtesy and politeness of British English.
The polite blend.
A very polite blend. There are frequent apologies. The word sorry is practically used as punctuation.
I've heard that.
And then there's the consensus building, it's a bit cold today, eh? It's not really a question. It's a way of inviting agreement, of checking that we're all on the same page.
It's like a little verbal hug. We're all in this together, eh?
It is. It builds connection and community.
Okay, we have covered so much ground, but we need to do a real deep dive into one of the absolute trickiest parts of English, tone and subtext. Because, as we said right at the beginning, you can know all the words but miss the entire meaning if you don't hear the music.
The music is everything. Let's look at this same words, different meaning phenomena. Take a simple common phrase like, that's great.
Okay, that's great. Walk me through the range.
All right. First, imagine I say it with a high pitch, a big smile, a lot of enthusiasm. That's great.
Okay, that's genuine happiness. You're truly pleased.
Right. Now imagine I flatten my voice completely, make it monotone, drop the pitch way down. That's great.
Ooh, okay, that sounds like you hate it. That is pure sarcasm.
Or maybe just complete exhaustion and defeat. Now, one more. What if I make it really sharp and quick, almost clipped? That's great.
That sounds like annoyance. Like, great, just one more problem I have to deal with.
You see, the exact same two words. Three completely different, even opposite meanings, all conveyed by tone.
Let's try another one. The word fine.
Fine. Probably the most dangerous word in the entire English language.
It really is. It causes so much trouble.
If someone asks how you are, and you say in a happy, bright tone, I'm fine, that means you're good.
Right.
But if you say it with a low, clipped tone, I'm fine,
that means I am absolutely furious. Do not speak to me. Leave the room immediately, and you should probably run for your life.
You have learned well. It's a massive warning signal.
So let's do Sarcasm 101. For a learner who is struggling with this, how do you detect it? It feels like a secret code sometimes.
It is a code, but there are clues. The biggest clue by far is context mismatch.
Okay, what's that?
It's when the words don't match the reality of the situation. If you're both standing outside in a torrential thunderstorm soaking wet, and I turn to you and say, lovely weather we're having, the context, the rain, does not match the words, lovely. Therefore, it has to be sarcasm.
So use your logic. If it doesn't make logical sense, it's probably sarcasm.
Exactly. The second clue is tone mismatch. You hear positive, happy words, but they're delivered with a flat, bored, or rolling voice. And finally, look at the visuals. The eye roll is the universal sign for sarcasm, or an exaggerated facial expression. If the face looks bored, but the words sound excited, always trust the face.
It's the face. I like that. Okay, let's bring all of this to life. We're going to do a case study. We have a hypothetical character named Alex, and we are going to follow Alex through a single day to see this style switching in action. I want to really narrate this to feel the changes.
This is the best way to visualize it, because Alex is the same person with the same core personality all day long. But notice how the linguistic costume changes completely depending on the scene.
Okay, it's 7 a.m. The alarm goes off. Alex wakes up next to a partner. What's the linguistic landscape in that bedroom?
It's prehistoric.
Yeah.
It is pure intimate style. There might be grunts. A one-word question. Coffee.
A mumbled response.
Right. And a lot of shared comfortable silence. They don't need to say, good morning, my dearest. Would you perhaps like to consume a caffeinated beverage with me this fine morning? They just exist together. It's hyper-efficient communication built on years of shared context.
Okay, now it's 8:30 a.m. Alex is out of the house and at the local coffee shop.
The switch flips. Instantly, we enter consultative style. Hi, can I get a large latte, please? Thanks.
Efficient, polite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Complete but short sentences. It's a transaction. Alex is being polite to the barista, but isn't trying to become their new best friend. It's about getting the coffee smoothly.
9:00 a.m., Alex walks into the office for the first team meeting of the day.
And now we shift again. We enter a blend of formal and consultative. The posture probably changes. Alex sits up straighter. The vocabulary elevates.
So Alex wouldn't say, hey, the data's messed up.
No. Alex would say, I'd like to flag a potential issue with the Q3 data. See the difference? Flag an issue. It's more structured, more professional. Alice is using in-group markers, business jargon, to prove competence and belonging in that specific group.
Okay. It's noon, time for lunch with a close work friend. They leave the office and go to a sandwich shop.
The tie comes off, metaphorically speaking, and we dive straight into informal and expressive style. Dude, you will not believe what happened in that meeting. It was insane.
Slang. Dude, high energy, insane.
Contractions, faster speech. Alex is signaling, we are off the clock now. We are equals. We can be real.
6:30 p.m. The work day is over. Alex gets a phone call from Mom.
And this is another unique blend. It's informal, but also caring and respectful. The tone softens. Hey, Mom, how are you? No, don't worry. I'm eating the vegetables.
It's respectful, but it's loving.
It's not as raw and unfiltered as the morning grunt with the partner, but it's definitely not as stiff and structured as the office meeting. It's its own special style.
And finally, it's 9:00 p.m. Alex is on the couch texting a friend to make plans for the weekend.
Now we enter text speak, the wild west of language. Ciutrice. Am down. Zero grammar. Zero capitalization. Abbreviations everywhere. It's pure information transfer with maximum efficiency.
So if you just took a transcript of what Alex said at 9 a.m. in the meeting and what Alex typed at 9 p.m., it would look like two completely different human beings.
But it's not. It's the same Alex. And that is the ultimate goal for any language learner. You want to be flexible enough to be Alex. You want to have a full wardrobe of styles so you can pick the right outfit for every single occasion.
I love that. Be like Alex. Okay, let's give the listeners a situational playbook. We know we need to switch styles, but what are the specific rules for some of these really high-stakes scenarios? Let's start with a big one, the job interview.
The goal here is to start formal, and then, if the interviewer is friendly, shift towards consultative. You want to show respect and professionalism, But you also want to show that you could be a friendly colleague.
What are the big do's and don'ts?
Do use strong professional verbs. Say, I coordinated the project, I was proactive in finding a solution, I analyzed the data. Use complete sentences, and absolutely do not fall into the Alex at lunch mode. Don't say, yeah, so like the thing was broken and I fixed it. Say, I identified the core issue and implemented a successful resolution.
Okay. What about another tricky one? Making a complaint. This is so hard for learners because there's emotion involved and you're worried about being rude.
It is very difficult.
Okay.
The best strategy is to start with a firm but polite consultative style.
So you don't go in with guns blazing.
No. You start politely. Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you, but it seems there's been a mistake with my bill. This approach gets the other person on your side. You only escalate to a more formal, firm tone if you're not getting a resolution. Then you might say this level of service is unacceptable.
But you don't start at unacceptable.
You never start there. You lose all the high ground if you do.
Okay, let's talk about the common pitfalls. Where do learners constantly wipe out when it comes to style?
Pitfall number one, and we've touched on this, is being too formal in casual settings, using that perfect textbook English at a party. I am having a very pleasant time. The musical selection is most enjoyable.
It just kills the vibe, doesn't it? It makes everyone else feel like they need to sit up straight and use proper grammar.
It does. The fix for that is to consciously practice using contractions. Force yourself to say I'm instead of I am, it's instead of it is. Relax your jaw and let the words flow a bit more.
And what's pitfall number 2?
Misreading politeness as agreement. This is the British danger zone we talked about earlier.
Right.
You present an idea, your British colleague says, that's a very interesting point of view, and you walk away thinking they loved it.
When in reality, they meant, that is the stupidest idea I have ever heard in my life.
Possibly. So the fix for that is to listen carefully for those hedging words, the maybes, the perhapses, the mights, the quites. If you hear those words, put the brakes on. You do not have agreement yet.
This is all such practical, useful stuff. But how do we actually practice it? We can't just go out and interrupt job interviews to listen in.
No, please don't do that. But we have incredible tools at our fingertips. The best tool you have is probably your television or your laptop. Watch TV, but watch it strategically.
Give me a playlist. What should I watch?
If you want to study formal English, watch something like The Crown, or watch a few TED Talks. Listen to the sentence structure, the vocabulary.
Okay.
If you want to master informal English, watch a sitcom like Friends or The Office. You will hear a masterclass in filler words, slang, and casual conversational flow. If you want to hear that direct, analytical style, watch a show like Sherlock or House MD. It's all about fast, precise, factual language.
And you can't just watch passively, can you? You have to be an active learner.
Exactly right. Use a technique called shadowing. This is so powerful. You listen to a short clip of someone speaking, you pause it, and then you repeat it back exactly as you heard it.
Not just the words.
Not just the words. You match the speed. You match the pauses. You match the emotional tone, the music of the voice. You're not just saying the words. You were trying to sing their song.
That really helps with that music and tone we were talking about earlier.
It builds the muscle memory for the style itself, not just for the vocabulary words.
Another exercise you mentioned in the notes is called style switching.
This is a fun one. You could do it by yourself. Take one simple sentence. Let's use, I want a vacation. Now, your game is to try and translate that one core idea into all 5 styles.
Okay, I'll try formal.
I would like to formally request my annual leave.
Nice. Informal.
Man, I need a break, like so bad.
Indirect and consultative.
I was wondering if there might be a good time for me to maybe take a few days off soon.
Expressive.
Oh my God, I am literally dying to be on a beach right now.
I can hear the difference so clearly when you do that.
And that's the point. And finally, the last strategy is just observation. Become a linguistic detective. Keep a style journal. When you're out in a cafe or on the bus, just listen. Note who is speaking, where they are, and why they might sound that way. Is that person using a lot of ums? They're probably thinking hard. Is that person saying actually a lot? They're probably correcting someone or adding a surprising piece of information.
It basically turns the entire world into your personal language classroom.
It really, really does.
We have covered so much ground today. From those frozen ancient rituals to the intimate whispers between partners, from the direct talking Americans to the understated, ironic Brits.
The main thing I really want listeners to take away from this is that mastering style is a journey. It's not a destination. Even native speakers are constantly adapting and learning. And you know what? We mess up sometimes too.
That is actually very comforting to know. And it's always okay to just ask for clarification, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's a sign of a great communicator. If you aren't sure, just ask. Sorry, were you joking just then? Or, I'm not sure I understood your tone. What did you mean by that? It shows that you care about truly understanding them, which people always appreciate.
Okay, so here's a final provocative thought to leave everyone with. We talked about Alex changing costumes all day. I want you to consider how your own personality changes when you switch languages. Does your English self feel different from your native language self? And is that because of the speaking style you've adopted? Are you more direct in English, more polite, more expressive? It's a fascinating thing to watch your own transformation.
That is a deep question. Because in a way, we do become slightly different people in different languages based on the styles we learn to wear.
We absolutely do. This has been incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for breaking all of this down for us.
It was my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for taking this deep dive with us. Please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We will see you next time.
Hello. Welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is How to Build Deep Listening Focus.
It's great to be here. You know, when I first saw the topic for today, I kind of thought, okay, listening, we all do it. But the more I got into the research, the more I realized I've probably been getting it wrong for a good couple of decades.
Only a couple. I think I'm looking at a lifetime of bad habits. I was going through our notes last night, and I had this genuine moment of guilt.
Yeah.
Just realizing how many conversations I've been in where I wasn't really there.
Mm-hmm.
You know that feeling?
Oh, I know it all too well. Which one are you thinking of?
The classic head nod. You know, you're in the room, you're looking right at them, you're nodding, maybe you throw in a mm-hmm or a wow, but inside your head, you're a million miles away.
Or you're just planning what to have for dinner.
Exactly. I've caught myself planning a grocery list while my friend is pouring their heart out. And then you get that moment of pure terror. They stop talking, look at you expectantly, and you have absolutely zero idea what the last 30 seconds were about.
That is the universal nightmare. And it's more than just embarrassing. It's really disconnecting. We think we're hiding it, but people can usually tell.
That's the thing. We think we're such good actors. But today, we're pulling back the curtain on that whole act. We are digging deep into deep listening. And I want to be clear from the start, this isn't just about being polite. The research treats this as a genuine skill, a kind of superpower, actually.
It really is. When you look at the most effective leaders, the best partners, the most trusted friends, they all have this in common. But before we get into the how, we have to draw a really sharp line between two words we use all the time as if they're the same thing.
Hearing versus listening.
Exactly. We say, I heard you, or I listened to you, like they're interchangeable. But from a biological and a cognitive standpoint, they are on different planets.
Okay, so break that down for us. What's the fundamental difference?
So hearing is the hardware. It's automatic. It's passive. If a fire engine goes past the studio right now, our ears are going to pick up that vibration. We can't stop it. It's a purely biological reaction to sound waves.
So hearing is just physics. Takes zero effort. I can hear things in my sleep.
You can, but listening. Listening is the software. It's an active choice. It requires your brain to engage, to process, to find meaning. You're taking those raw sound waves and decoding them.
I like that analogy. Hardware versus software. So hearing is the microphone being on, but listening is the engineer actually mixing the sound.
That's a great way to put it. And deep listening, which is what we're aiming for today, that's when the whole studio is working in perfect harmony. It's not just the brain decoding words. It's the heart, the mind, and the ears all synced up. You're completely present. You're not planning your reply. You're just absorbing.
That sounds intense. And if I'm being honest, a little exhausting. If I had to do that in every single conversation all day, from the person who makes my coffee to my boss, I'd need a nap by lunch. What's the payoff? Why invest that kind of energy?
It is energy intensive. You're right about that. We can't pretend it's effortless, but the return on that investment is just huge. Let's start with relationships. When you truly, deeply listen to someone, you build trust faster than almost any other way.
Because it makes them feel important.
It validates them. It sends the message. For this moment, you are the most important thing in my world. And in an age of constant distraction, that is an incredibly powerful gift to give someone.
It's the currency of connection. That makes sense. But what about for our listeners who are focused on, say, learning English or advancing their careers?
Well, just think about the sheer inefficiency of miscommunication. How many arguments, how many mistakes at work come from someone thinking you said one thing when you really meant another?
Oh, all the time. The classic, I thought you said it was due Friday, when I actually said, let's start it on Friday.
Precisely. Deep listening cuts through that fog. It accelerates learning because you're catching the nuances, not just the surface level words. You're downloading information with a much higher fidelity.
So it's a real competitive advantage. Everyone else is skimming, but the deep listener is getting the complete picture.
And people notice, especially in a professional setting. It shows maturity, it shows intelligence. The person who really listens is often the person who ends up leading because they understand what's actually going on.
Okay, you sold me on the why. I want this superpower. But, and it's a big but, it feels so hard. If it's this beneficial, why are we all so bad at it?
Because we're fighting a war on several fronts, and the biggest enemy isn't the noisy cafe or our buzzing phone. It's the noise inside our own heads.
The internal chatter.
That internal monologue, yeah. We have to appreciate the sheer volume of traffic in our minds. Some estimates suggest the average person has between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day.
60,000, that's mind-boggling.
Even if you take the low end of that estimate, it's still a constant rushing river of thoughts.
That's basically a new thought every couple of seconds, all day.
You got it. So picture a student in a class. The teacher is explaining a complex grammar rule. That's the external signal. But internally, the student's brain is screaming, I'm so hungry. Did I remember to lock the door? Why did my friend seem annoyed yesterday?
It's like trying to hear one quiet person in the middle of a loud party, and the party is inside your own head.
That's the perfect way to describe it. Our own thoughts are naturally more compelling to us than someone else's. We're just hardwired to pay attention to our own internal drama.
So that's the internal barrier. But the external ones are impossible to ignore these days.
Oh, for sure. The environment. It has never been a tougher time to focus. The smartphone is the #1 villain, obviously, but some of the research on this is genuinely chilling. Just having your phone visible on the table, even if it's turned off.
Just seeing it.
Just its presence is enough to lower the quality and depth of the conversation. A part of your brain stays on alert, waiting for it to buzz. It splits your focus and signals to the other person that they don't have your full attention.
Wow. We're sabotaging ourselves without even touching the thing.
And that's before you add in the coffee shop sounds, the traffic, the other people talking. Your brain is working overtime just to filter out the noise. It's draining.
Okay, so we've got noise inside, noise outside. But then the research points to another layer, a more psychological one, the ego barriers.
This is where it gets a little uncomfortable because we have to look at ourselves. One of the biggest is prejudgment.
I am so guilty of this.
I think we all are. It's a mental shortcut. Your brain wants to be efficient, so it tries to predict what the other person's going to say.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say your manager walks over to your desk and says, I want to talk about the project deadline. And you immediately think, oh no, here it comes. They're going to complain that I'm behind.
And instantly I stop listening.
Oh.
I'm already building my defense in my head.
You've completely checked out. But what if they were about to say, I want to talk about the project deadline because I think we can push it back and give you more resources? You've missed a huge opportunity because you were listening to your own assumption, not to them.
It's lazy listening, basically.
It is, and a close cousin to that is what I call the waiting to talk habit.
Oh, this one stings. This is where you're not listening. You're just waiting for them to take a breath so you can jump in.
It's like a verbal ambush, just waiting for your moment. It often happens when someone mentions a topic you have a story about. They say, I just got back from a trip to Italy. And your brain just lights up. Italy. I have an Italy story. I need to tell my Italy story.
So while they're telling you about their experience, you're not with them. You're mentally rehearsing your own story.
And what you're really doing is using their experience as a springboard for your own. It's a subtle form of conversational narcissism. It says, my story is more interesting than yours.
That's a strong phrase, but it feels right. We're hijacking the conversation.
And then, of course, you have the emotional barriers. The moment a conversation gets a little heated, listening is always the first thing to go.
The walls go up.
If someone criticizes an idea you have, your brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, can fire up. It feels like a personal attack.
So you go into fight or flight mode.
Exactly. And you can't be in deep listening mode and fight or flight mode at the same time. You start listening for weaknesses in their argument, not for points of understanding. You're looking for ammo, not connection.
Which is why arguments so rarely lead to a good outcome. We're just firing verbal missiles back and forth.
And the last barrier is a simple biological one: information overload. Think of your brain like a bucket.
It can only hold so much.
Right. If you're in a 3-hour lecture, at some point, the bucket is full. You start to zone out, not because you're being rude, but because your brain literally has no more space to store new information. It's reached its cognitive limit.
So we're up against a lot. Our own thoughts, our phones, our ego, our emotions, and just the physical limits of our brain. It's a wonder we ever really hear anyone.
It really is. And it explains why deep listening is so rare. But the good news is, all of these are walls we can learn to dismantle. We can build a new foundation.
Let's do that. Let's talk about building. The notes talk about 4 foundations. These aren't really techniques. They're more like mindsets you need to have in place first.
That's a good way to put it. You can't just apply a trick. You have to start from the right mental place. And the first foundation is intention.
It sounds so simple, but I feel like it's the one we always skip.
We absolutely do. We just drift into conversations. Intention is about making a conscious decision before the conversation starts. It's about flipping a mental switch.
So before I walk into a meeting, I literally say to myself, okay, for the next hour, my primary goal is to listen and understand.
Yes. You're giving your brain a direct order. You're telling its filtering system, hey, this is important, prioritize this. It primes you to focus.
It's like setting the destination in your GPS before you start driving.
That's it. Foundation 2 is curiosity. And this is my personal favorite because it reframes listening from a chore into an adventure.
I loved the example in the research about the 2 students in a history class.
It's perfect. So you have student A. The topic is the Industrial Revolution. Student A is thinking, oh, this is so boring. It's just old news. Who cares?
Student A is going to have a miserable time.
It's torture. But student B decides to be curious. They think, wait a minute, what was it actually like to live then? How did people survive without electricity? What did those factories smell like? They're looking for the human story.
The teacher's the same. The facts are the same, but student B's experience is completely different because they chose to be curious.
Curiosity is the ultimate antidote to boredom. The mental trick is to assume that every single person you talk to knows something you don't. Your mission is to find out what that is.
That's a great mindset shift. What can I learn from this person? Okay, foundation number 3.
Respect. And this one is tough. It's easy to respect someone you already agree with. It's incredibly difficult to listen respectfully to someone you fundamentally disagree with.
That's the real test, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I listen to someone whose views I find, frankly, offensive?
Respect, in this context, doesn't mean you agree. It just means you value them as a person enough to give them the dignity of expressing themselves without you shutting down. It means asking, can you tell me more about why you feel that way? Instead of just rolling your eyes.
That requires a lot of emotional control.
It does, but that's where real understanding can happen. And that brings us to the 4th and final foundation, patience.
The example of listening to an elderly relative really hit me. We've all been there.
Listening to a grandparent tell a story for the 10th time.
Right. And they're pausing, they're searching for a name, they go off on a tangent. The modern brain just wants to scream, get to the point.
We want to finish their sentences for them to speed it up. But patience says the connection is more valuable than the speed. When you wait for them to find their word, you're non-verbally communicating, you are worth my time.
It's an act of love.
It really is. And for our audience of language learners, this is so important. When you're listening to someone trying to speak English and they're struggling for a word, the kindest thing you can do is just wait, let them get there. That silence is where the learning is happening.
So we have intention, curiosity, respect, and patience. Once we have that mindset, we can start using the practical tools. Let's get into the toolkit. The first one is an acronym I like, the STEP-P method.
A good acronym is always helpful in the moment. STOP.
Talk us through it. What's S?
S is for stop. Literally, physically stop what you are doing. If you're typing, take your hands off the keyboard. If you're washing dishes, put the sponge down. You cannot multitask listening.
So freeze. What's T?
T is for turn. Turn your body to face the speaker. It's such a simple thing, but it's incredibly powerful. It signals, I am now giving you my full attention.
Your body is saying what your mind intends to do. O.
O is for observe. This is where you go beyond just hearing the words. You look at their face, you notice their body language, their tone of voice. You're gathering all the nonverbal data.
And finally, P.
P is for postpone. Postpone judgment and postpone your own response. Don't think about what you're going to say next. Just be a receiver for a moment.
Okay, so let's put it into practice. I'm working, my partner comes in and says, we need to talk. My instinct is to say, okay, go ahead, while I keep typing.
Which basically guarantees the conversation will go badly.
Right. So instead, I stop typing. I turn my chair. I observe their expression. And I postpone my own agenda.
And that whole sequence takes maybe 5 seconds, but it completely changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. You've set the stage for success.
That's a huge return for a 5-second investment. Okay, next tool, the echo technique, or paraphrasing.
The echo is your quality control. It's how you check if the message you received is the message they intended to send.
So this isn't just repeating them like a parrot, right? I'm feeling stressed, you're feeling stressed. That would be really annoying.
Very annoying. No, you're not a parrot. You're more like a mirror. You reflect their meaning back to them in your own words.
Give me an example.
A coworker says to you, I am completely swamped. I've got 3 projects due this week. My boss just added another one, and I feel like I'm drowning.
Okay. A bad response would be, wow, that sucks.
A slightly better but still not great response is the parrot. You have 4 projects. The echo response would be, it sounds like you're feeling totally overwhelmed and you're not sure where to even begin. Is that right?
Is that right? At the end is the managing part.
It's the key. It invites them to clarify. They might say, yes, that's exactly it. Or even better, they might say, well, it's not so much that I'm overwhelmed, it's that I don't have the data I need for this one specific project.
And boom, you've identified the real problem. You didn't waste time giving them generic advice about time management.
You got it. It makes the conversation so much more efficient and effective.
And for language learners, this has to be a lifesaver.
It's the best tool in their kit. So just to confirm I understood correctly, you need me to send the email before the meeting, not after. It takes all the pressure off.
Let's talk more about the body. Technique 3 is active body language. We know we should turn towards them, but what else? You mentioned a feedback loop.
Yes, this is fascinating. We think our emotions dictate our body language, but it's a two-way street. Your body language can also influence your emotions and your focus.
So you can act your way into being a better listener.
To a certain extent, yes. If you adopt the posture of an engaged listener, leaning forward slightly, making eye contact, nodding, you send a signal back to your brain saying, hey, pay attention, this is important.
So if I'm stuck in a boring meeting, instead of slumping in my chair, I should sit up and lean in.
Try it. It can actually make your brain more alert. The do's are leaning in, comfortable eye contact, and nodding. The don'ts are the big ones. Crossed arms, looking at your phone, tapping your feet.
Crossed arms is my go-to I'm thinking pose. But you're saying it reads as I'm closed off.
It creates a literal physical barrier between you and the other person. It's a defensive posture.
This next one is for me. My brain is a constant storm of random thoughts. Technique 4, the notepad strategy.
This is the external hard drive for your brain.
So simple, but so brilliant. Explain it.
You're listening intently, and then out of nowhere, your brain shouts, don't forget to buy milk, or you need to schedule that dentist appointment.
And for the next 5 minutes, all I can think is milk, 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 and I've completely lost the thread of the conversation.
Because you're using up your precious working memory to hold on to that thought. The notepad strategy is simply this. Have a piece of paper, and when that thought pops up, just jot it down. Milk, dentist.
That's it.
That's it. The act of writing it down tells your brain, this is captured, you can let it go now. It frees up that mental space to return your focus to the speaker.
It's like closing a browser tab in your mind.
Exactly. It declutters your mental workspace.
And the final technique in this section is the one that fills people with dread. Mindful silence.
The fear of the pause.
It's so real. We feel this incredible pressure to fill every single gap in a conversation. Dead air feels like failure.
It does. But silence is not empty space, it's thinking space. When a person pauses, it often means they're formulating a deeper, more important thought.
So if I jump in too quickly, I rob them of that thought.
You cut them off right before the breakthrough. Imagine a friend says, I'm thinking of quitting my job, and then they pause.
My instinct is to immediately ask a million questions.
Why?
What happened? Do you have another job?
But if you just wait, if you count to 3 in your head and stay silent, they might continue on their own and say, because I've always had this dream of opening my own bakery and I'm terrified, but I think it's now or never.
And I would have completely missed the real story, the dream. if I had interrupted.
You would have missed the heart of it. The first sentence is the headline. The real story often comes after the pause.
Silence isn't empty. It's an invitation. I like that.
That's a great way to put it.
I want to get nerdy for a bit. We know the what and the how, but I'm fascinated by the why, what's actually happening in our brains. Let's get into the science of this.
I love this part. Okay, first up, let's officially kill the myth of multitasking. When it comes to listening, it does not exist.
It's just a lie we tell ourselves to feel productive.
It is. Your ears can hear multiple sounds at once, but the language processing center in your brain can only focus on one stream of meaning at a time. It's a single-lane highway.
So when I'm trying to listen to my spouse while also half listening to the news, what's my brain actually doing?
It's rapidly switching back and forth, a split second on your spouse, a split second on the news. But every time you switch, you lose a little bit of information. It's called switch cost. You end up with a fragmented understanding of both.
So I'm just doing two things badly instead of one thing well.
You got it. And this ties directly into the concept of working memory. The best analogy for this is a small desk. Your working memory is the surface of that desk. You can only hold a few items on it at a time. If your desk is already cluttered with your own worries, your to-do list, your distractions, there's no room for what the other person is saying.
And if you try to put their words on the full desk, they just fall on the floor.
Which is why you can meet someone, they tell you their name, and 2 seconds later, it's gone. Your desk was full. There was no space for it. The notepad strategy we talked about is literally just a way of clearing your desk.
Okay, now the notes mention something that sounds like it's from a sci-fi movie. The default mode network.
The DMN. It's a network of brain regions that becomes active when your mind is at rest, when you're not focused on an external task. It's your brain's autopilot.
So this is the part of the brain that's responsible for daydreaming.
And for thinking about yourself, your past, your future, it's the me network. Deep listening requires you to actively turn down the volume on the DMN and turn up the volume on another network, the task positive network, which is what you use for focus.
So they work in opposition, like a seesaw.
Exactly. When one is up, the other is down. You can't be fully in self-reflection mode and outward focus mode at the very same time. The practice of deep listening is essentially a workout for your brain, teaching it to switch more effectively from the DMN to the TPN.
And can you get better at that? Is it a trainable skill?
Absolutely. And that's where neuroplasticity comes in. Your brain physically changes based on what you do repeatedly. The analogy I love is the forest path.
I like this one.
Imagine your brain is a dense forest. The first time you try to practice deep listening, it's like forcing your way through thick undergrowth. It's hard, it's slow, it takes a ton of energy.
That's why it feels so exhausting at first.
But if you walk that same path every day, if you keep practicing, you start to trample down the bushes, a little trail forms. Over time, that trail becomes a clear path. Eventually, it can become a wide paved road.
So what was once difficult becomes your brain's new default pathway.
It becomes the path of least resistance. You are literally rewiring your brain to make focus the easier option, but you have to do the hard work of clearing the path first.
That's so motivating. It's not some fixed trait. It's a muscle we can all build.
Without a doubt.
So let's take that muscle and apply it. Let's talk about contextual listening, because how we listen at work is different from how we listen at home.
The context is everything. The goal changes. Let's start with the workplace.
Home of the painfully boring meeting.
The biggest challenge at work is often just sustaining focus on dry or complex material. The notes had a great case study about a manager named Lisa.
I remember Lisa.
So Lisa's team was making a lot of mistakes, things were getting missed, and she realized it was because during their meetings, everyone was half listening while also working on their laptops.
So what did she do? Did she ban laptops?
Something much smarter. She introduced a new rule. At the end of every meeting, she would randomly select one person to summarize the key decisions and action items for everyone.
Oh, that's brilliant and terrifying.
The terror is the point.
Yeah.
Suddenly, everyone had to listen because they didn't want to be the one who was called on and had nothing to say.
It forced them to stay engaged.
Right. And she reported that communication errors dropped by 50% within a month.
That's a massive impact. And you could apply that to yourself, even if your boss doesn't do it. Just pretend you might be called on.
You can. There was another tip from someone named Raj, specifically for virtual meetings. To fight Zoom fatigue, his rule is to write down one key takeaway every half hour.
Just one.
Just one. But the act of hunting for that one important nugget keeps your brain actively scanning and filtering the information. It gives you a mission.
I like that. Hunt the nugget. Okay, let's shift from the boardroom to the living room. Personal relationships. This is where the emotions come in.
And the biggest trap here is what we can call the fix-it reflex.
Guilty is charged. My partner comes to me with a problem, and my brain immediately switches into solution mode. Okay, here's what you need to do.
And how does that usually land?
Terribly. They get frustrated and say, you're not listening. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I'm listening so hard. I'm solving your problem for you.
But you're solving the logical problem. Most of the time in relationships, people are looking for emotional connection first and solutions second. They want to feel heard, not managed.
The notes had a great little language hack for this. The but versus and switch.
It's so subtle, but it's so powerful. We often say things like, I understand you're frustrated, but you need to see it from their perspective.
The but just erases everything that came before it.
Exactly. It invalidates their feeling. It creates an argument. If you simply switch that but to an and, it changes everything.
So I understand you're frustrated, and I want to help you figure this out.
I hear how hard that was for you, and I'm here for you, and connects. It validates their feeling and adds your support. It allows both things to be true at once.
It's collaborative instead of adversarial.
It is. The example was Tom, whose wife had a bad presentation. His first instinct was to give her advice. Well, you should have practiced more, which is unhelpful. The better, deep listening response is to start with a question. Wow, that sounds rough. How are you feeling about it?
Deal with the emotion first. The strategy can come later.
Much later.
Okay, a quick word for our English learners. Listening in a language that's not your first is incredibly taxing.
It's maximum cognitive load. The most common mistake learners make is trying to understand every single word. They get stuck on one unfamiliar word, and while they're trying to figure it out, they miss the next 3 sentences.
So they drown in the details.
They do. The key strategy is to listen for the gist, the main idea. You have to get comfortable not knowing every word, and instead use the context to fill in the blanks.
The Yuki method from the notes was great for this.
It was. Yuki's method was to listen to any short piece of audio 3 times.
What was the first pass?
Pass 1, no pausing, just listen for the general topic. What is this about? A story, an argument, a news report.
And the second pass.
Pass 2, listen again, but this time, pause whenever you need to. Try to catch specific phrases or sentences.
And the third?
Pass 3, listen with the transcript or subtitles on. Now you can connect the sounds you heard with the words on the page. It's a structured, low-pressure way to build comprehension.
I love that. It makes it a process, not a test. Okay, let's level up. Let's talk about the advanced skills. This is the black belt level of listening.
The first one is listening for what is not said.
The dog that didn't bark.
Precisely. You have to be a bit of a detective. The most important information is often in the gaps, in the topics that are conspicuously avoided.
Like what?
Imagine you ask a friend how things are going. They tell you all about their amazing new job, their kids' soccer games, a great vacation they took. But they never once mention their partner.
The silence is screaming.
A surface listener just hears a lot of good news. A deep listener hears a potential problem in the relationship. It's an area to ask about gently.
Or in a job interview.
If you ask about the company culture and the interviewer pivots to talking about the salary and benefits without ever answering your question.
That evasion is the answer about the company culture.
Exactly. You have to listen to the empty spaces.
Advanced skill 2, empathic listening. We throw the word empathy around a lot. What's the real difference between that and sympathy?
Sympathy is feeling for someone. Empathy is feeling with someone.
Okay, break that down.
Sympathy is standing at the edge of a deep, dark hole that someone has fallen into and shouting down, I'm so sorry you're down there. That looks awful. It's a kind gesture, but you're still separate.
And empathy.
Empathy is climbing down the ladder into the hole with them, sitting beside them in the dark and saying, wow, it's really dark down here. You're not alone.
So in a conversation, instead of saying, I'm sorry, which is sympathy,
you would say something that names their feeling. You worked so hard for that promotion. You must be feeling so disappointed and maybe even a little angry. You're showing them you understand their specific emotional state.
You're holding up a mirror to their feelings.
And that creates a feeling of being profoundly understood.
And the last advanced skill, cultural listening. Yeah. This is so critical today.
It is, because the rules of listening change dramatically from culture to culture.
We talked a bit about silence.
In a place like Finland, a long pause after someone speaks is a sign of respect. It means you're carefully considering their words. In a place like New York City, that same silence might feel awkward or hostile.
The Carlos example was perfect.
Carlos came from a very expressive culture where interrupting someone with enthusiastic agreement was how you showed you were engaged. He moved to a team in Northern Europe where that was seen as incredibly rude.
Total culture clash.
They thought they were cold and uninterested. They thought he was aggressive and disrespectful. He had to learn to listen to the rhythm of their culture, not just his own.
It's another whole layer of awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the skills. Now let's talk about specific exercises our listeners can do to build this muscle.
These are like drills for your listening brain.
Exercise 1, the podcast pause.
Simple but effective. Listen to one sentence of a podcast, pause it, and then repeat the sentence back out loud, word for word.
Not just the general idea, but the exact words.
The exact words. It forces your brain to pay attention to the small but important grammatical words, the prepositions, the articles that we often gloss over.
Exercise 2, the dictation challenge.
This is a classic. Take a 30-second audio clip, listen to it as many times as you need, and try to write down every single word. Then check your version against the official transcript.
I've done this. It's incredibly humbling.
It's tough, but it will show you exactly where your listening gaps are. You'll see, oh, I consistently missed the "es" at the end of plural words, or I didn't hear that adjective at all.
It's like a diagnostic test for your ears.
Precisely.
Exercise 3, watching something without subtitles.
Subtitles are a crutch. They're great for learning, but they turn a listening exercise into a reading exercise.
It's scary to turn them off.
It is. You will feel a little lost at first, but it's the only way to force your brain to rely solely on the audio input. It's like taking the training wheels off. You have to do it to learn to ride.
And the last one, which sounds fun, listen and draw.
This one is great. You find an audio description of a place or an object. There is a small cottage with a blue door. To the left of the door, there's a large rose bush. And you just listen and draw what you hear.
And then you compare your drawing to the description.
It's a fantastic way to see if you're really processing descriptive and spatial language.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Okay, to bring it all home, we can't just do a few exercises. We need a routine. How do we build a daily practice?
You have to make it a habit, just like going to the gym.
So what does a daily listening workout look like? Let's start with the morning.
In the morning, just 5 minutes of mindful listening. Don't listen to music or a podcast. Just sit and listen to the sounds of your environment. The hum of the refrigerator, the birds outside, the sound of your own breathing.
Just calibrating the instrument.
Exactly. No judgment, just noticing.
What about midday?
The midday challenge. Pick one conversation during your day, just one, and commit to being 100% focused for that single interaction. No phone, full eye contact, use the echo technique.
Make it your one perfect listening moment of the day.
Yes. It's manageable.
And in the evening.
Reflect. Take 2 minutes with a journal and ask yourself, when was I a good listener today? When did I zone out? And what was the trigger?
I zoned out when I was hungry. Or I zoned out when I was worried about that email.
Knowing your triggers is half the battle. Then you can prepare for them tomorrow.
This has been so comprehensive, from brain science to practical tips. But I want to end with a story from our research that really tied it all together for me. The story of Sophie the waitress.
It's the perfect illustration of why this all matters. Sophie worked in a busy coffee shop, and there was this elderly man who came in every single day, sat by himself, and just stared out the window.
He was part of the scenery.
It's just background noise to most people. But one day, Sophie really looked at him, and she noticed he seemed especially sad. So even though she was busy, she took a moment. She went over and asked, "How are you doing today? Really?"
She set her intention.
She did, and the man looked up and his eyes filled with tears, and he said, "It's the anniversary of my wife's passing." And then he just started talking about her, about his loneliness.
And what did Sophie do? Did she offer advice? Try to cheer him up?
No! That's the beautiful part. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, refilled his cup, and listened. She gave him the gift of her undivided attention. She witnessed his grief.
She let him feel seen.
After a few minutes, he stopped, took a deep breath, and he actually smiled at her. He said, "Thank you. I feel lighter. No one has let me talk about her in a long time."
She didn't solve his problem, but she healed something in that moment.
She gave him the one thing he needed, which was to be heard. Listening is a profound act of generosity. It's how we tell each other, you matter and you are not alone.
That's a power we all have. Doesn't cost anything. All it requires is our attention.
That's it.
So that's our challenge to you listening today. Find one person, the next person you talk to, and for just a few minutes, give them the gift of your deep, focused listening.
You will be amazed at what happens.
And end of this episode, must mention like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us in the lab.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep listening.